So nice to see you today, Sharon, embracing all your beautiful greys. It really, really suits you. So how did that happen for you?
Just before COVID brought my grey on.
Yeah.
Because sadly my colourist died. She didn't die from COVID, but she died. And I've been thinking about it. We discussed it about how I was going to go grey. Was she going to streak it? Would we do it gradually? Would we chop it off? How would we go grey? We'd been talking about it. I'd known her for years and years. And then she left me.
Wow.
So I decided...
It was almost like she was your friend.
I'm going to embrace it then and there.
Okay.
So her sister was my hairdresser who cut my hair. And she came along and she chopped it off. Quite short.
Goodness.
Right up the back.
But that's the beauty of grey, isn't it? It's not one
life.
colour. It's got
It's
life.
alive.
Exactly. And everybody's is unique.
So I did this. And my grandchildren were a bit sort of taken aback at having a grey granny.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Another friend of mine said, no, she's Polish. Don't like it. You need to put some colour in.
But why do you think she didn't like it?
I think that when people look at you, they see a frame. They don't really see who you are. They see a frame. Not all people, but generally people out there, they see a frame and they possibly don't recognise you. So
like they see the outsides of you, like that maybe they're the outlines of you maybe?
I think so.
Is that what you mean?
And also you come stamped. Like Sharon's got black hair, you know. So-and-so's got blonde hair. So when people like to describe you.
Yeah.
And so they might be saying, to a friend, Sharon is, she's the one with black curly hair.
Mm-hmm. So do you think they're describing you differently now?
They're probably not describing me at all.
So, but did you feel that people looked at you differently when you decided to stop colouring?
You feel it, but I'm not sure that they do.
Mm-hmm.
You feel, because of you've been told that only old people are grey. It's a little bit like hearing aids. You're told only old people wear hearing aids, so you don't want to wear them. But in fact, young people wear them as well. And there are young people who are grey. My grandmother was grey at 23, 24.
Interesting.
She had a full head of grey hair. She used to dye it.
She used to color.
Why did she dye it? Because she couldn't get a job. They thought she was too old.
Wow.
So she dyed her hair for many years.
Mm-hmm. But do you think people live differently now with this grey?
I've noticed, if you now look at people, look at film stars and so on, television particularly, you see a lot of grey people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you go to Boots or any chemist, you'll see the products that have come out for grey hair.
Yes.
There's now an acknowledgement that this is a colour that also needs attention.
It's also a colour.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes. And it's not a colour that you just fade to grey.
Yes.
It's a colour
It's a colour.
It's, yeah, thanks.
So there are lots of products.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think people treat you differently? Like generally, man in the street, people that you know, do they treat you differently?
I've been offered seats on the train.
Okay. And how do you feel about that?
Love it.
You love it.
Why should I stand rocking on the train?
But do you feel that people should treat you differently now that you're...
No, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not. You the person you are, and what you look like, it shouldn't really matter.
So do you think you're still as visible as you ever were?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope so. I think people are getting used to it now. People are beginning to see me as they see photographs of me put out there with grey hair, or the more they see you, the more they get used to it. That person who told me that I should dye it when I first started going grey has subsequently said to me, I love it. So I think it's a matter also of getting used to what a person looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like when you go on holiday and you come back very brown. And that's a sudden change.
Yes.
Whereas when that tan wears off, it's not a sudden change. People don't notice it as you gradually lose that tan. But they notice you come back from holiday and say, oh, you're so brown.
Yeah.
But,
let's just say you decided to colour your hair turquoise. do you think the comments are equally varying, or do you think that the grey has a specific undertone about, unintended, about the colour that you're choosing now to be?
I think grey still has connotations of age. There's still time will, hopefully, time will change that.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a family where the women didn't tint their hair. My mother never tinted her hair. My aunts never tinted their hair. So they just went grey. And I have to say, my mother looked younger when she was old than when she was young. I don't know if it was the grey hair or maybe the freedom it brought. I don't know.
So they didn't colour because it brought freedom?
Just didn't. When they were young, colouring was done by movie stars and vain people. It wasn't done by the average person.
Okay.
When they were young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think they didn't colour because they weren't people who put on loads of makeup and wore piles of jewellery and the highest fashion clothes. They were homemakers, stayed at home, grew up, they were parents after the war. So they're kind of different. They weren't socialites.
Mm-hmm.
And so dyeing your hair didn't sort of come into it. It wasn't discussed.
So it was like, if you were grey, you're not glamorous, you're not attractive?
I don't think they thought of themselves in that way.
Mm-hmm.
They were mothers.
Okay.
Remember, my mother became a mother in the 1940s. So when you became a mother, you put on a black skirt and a blouse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and women weren't wearing trousers then.
Yeah.
There were fashionable women who were wearing these flowing trousers.
Mm-hmm.
But the average woman wore a skirt and a pair of stockings and a pair of shoes, smart shoes that you could walk in, and a blouse. So they kind of did look older. They looked matronly. As soon as they had babies, they looked very matronly.
But you died and then you stopped.
I stopped.
So do you feel like you are less attractive, less glamorous, less of anything?
I sometimes don't recognize myself when I walk past the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes say, is that me? But I'm getting used to it. It also takes me time to get used. It's not just the people out there. It's me getting used to the fact that I do look different. This is what you see, is what you get.
Do you think you're dressing any differently now? Are you wearing
No.
different colours?
My black.
Yeah, but so you're not changing how the style of dress, the colours that you use?
Well, I wear black. I'm known for wearing black.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wear a colour, it's usually cerise or pink,
Okay.
which goes with grey. I don't wear bright greens or gold, or never went with my skin tone.
Okay.
So the colours I wear are fine.
Mm-hmm.
But because of COVID, I've got used to running around in tracksuits, and
What do you do?
I teach yoga.
Oh,
And I'm a
okay.
yoga therapist.
You're a yoga therapist, so you work with people.
Work with people.
But if you were giving advice to somebody who was thinking about should they embrace their natural look, what would you tell them? What would you say?
Well, I think people should do what makes them feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first thing. If you're happy, that's what counts. Age embraces more, involves more than just what you look like, what you put on, your cosmetics and the colour of your hair. It's also what you do with your body, how you keep your body. Are you doing something that keeps your muscles working? Because as you get older, certainly for women past menopause, the tissues dry out. And so you have to really put in some effort to keep the tissues of your body working, the muscles. You have to keep flexible, because if you sit around, you can't walk, you get tired, you get a sore back, and then you don't want to walk, and then you sit down, and then you've got the grey hair, and you think I'm very old. So there's embracing that action that you have to be involved with, to be busy, to be interested, to read, to walk, to stand on your head.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
To actually stand on your head, to do a handstand.
Mm-hmm.
If
get
you
the blood
remember
flowing.
doing a cartwheel
Yeah.
as a child,
Yeah.
there's no reason why you can't enjoy that. And somehow now the grey goes with that for me. It goes with the sort of latter years of my life where my yoga practice is quieter and more internal. And the grey goes with it. It feels quiet and rather comfortable. But also displaying who you are as a person, not just receding into the background.
So what is it saying about you?
Hopefully that I'm interesting.
Well,
That
how do
I'm
you feel about
me.
Yeah.
I don't really feel any different because I'm grey. And I think it's because of my involvement in the yoga, in the sort of physical part of my life that keeps me fit and healthy. I don't really feel any different. Sometimes, I think I said to you before, as I flash past a mirror, I kind of look and say, is that you?
And when you do flash past and you do see that person, do you
It took me a
recognize
while.
her?
It took me a while to like that person
Okay.
because, like anybody else who looks at you, it's an image you're not used to looking at.
But do you feel you're making a statement now about this is where you are in your life, or do you feel like it was a natural progression? How did that come for you?
I think it's probably a natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think it's that. I don't really like to make statements in that way. So I'm hoping that it's just part of me growing in a certain direction.
That's great. Thank you so much.